that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 2 English lesson on commas. And before we go on to our lesson on commas, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 2, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of commas. All right, so our chapter is commas. Our subject that we are focusing on is English language arts, grade 2. And the lessons that we are focusing on today is commas with series, commas with dates, and commas with names of places. That is going to be our chapter that we're going to be focusing on under our lessons that we're going to be focusing on under the chapter of commas. All right. So we're first going on to commas with series. And commas with series is when you are basically ranging, let's say, a list of things. And when you are listing a few things, and it means that you need to show the commas um, next to each one of those things, right? So which means that we use commas to list a few things. Like, for example, if you go to the shop and you buy, let's say, chips, I think it's crackers or snacks. So if you go and buy, like, let's say, crackers, you buy cool drink, um, I'm trying to remember words of names of snacks, or let's say the way you say it, like let's say in your country compared to mine. Like for chips, like your Simba, Lay's, and so on, we say it is chips, right? But if you buy, let's say, certain items, right, and then it means that you're listing a few things, and then it means that next to each one of the items that you are buying, you're going to put a comma. So if you buy, let's say, chips, then you're going to say, I went to the shop and bought chips, comma, lollipops, comma, sweets, comma, right? And then if you're going to use the last one, then you say and um, cool drink, for example, right? But now it means that if you are listing a few things, and that is why we call it series, right? It means that if you are separating 3 or more items within a series, and then it means that we need to separate those items with a comma. So we then have to put a comma after each of the items on the list, except for the last one. So we don't put a comma after the last one, right? We put our comma before the word and, then we list the last one, and then period, or our end point. For example, the American flag is, so the American flag is red, comma, white, comma, right? Now we use the last one. And before we select the last one, or let's say we add the last one, right? We just say blue. We say and blue. Do you see we did not put a comma after the last word because we just say and then we mention the last word and then we put our end point. So we basically use the commas to separate 3 or more items within a series. And we put a comma after each item within the list, but we do not put a comma after the last word. We put an endpoint or period after the last word. And before the last word, we put and. We put the word and, or we write the word and. For example, once again, the American flag is red, white, comma, and blue. And after the last word blue, we put an endpoint, period. All right, so if we look at these words, right, we're going to make a few examples. We're going to say if these words, or let's say these sentences, are correct. So we're going to say if these sentences are correct, right? It says, we have peanuts, comma, popcorn, comma, and cookies, comma, at the party. Is that correct? So we will have peanuts, comma, popcorn, comma, and cookies, comma, at the party. Is that correct? And if it's correct, then we are going to tick it correct. If not correct, we are going to fix the error. And if we were to look at the sentence, right, it says we will have peanuts, popcorn, and cookies at the party, right? Remember, we said that we put a comma after each item in the list, but we do not put a comma after the last item on the list, right? And if we look at the sentence again, it says, we will have peanuts, popcorn, and cookies, comma, at the party, which means that the error within this in the sentence is the comma over here, right? Because this comma needs to come out. So if we were to rewrite that sentence, correctly, then we will say, we will have peanuts, comma, popcorn, comma, and cookies at the party. And as you can see, I had removed the comma that was over here, right? So that was removed, which means that we do not put a comma after our last item that we list, right? So we will have peanuts, comma, popcorn, comma, and cookies, no comma, at the party. Once we start putting the word and, then it means that we are now ending off our items that we have listed. We have no more items to list after the word and. So and you list your last word or your last item, but then there's no more the after. All right. Let's look at the next one. The next one says, please feed, comma, the cat, comma, the dog, comma, and the rabbit, period. So we need to choose the correct. We need to say if this is correct. If the sentence is correct, then it is correct. If not, we need to fix the error. All right, and if we were to fix the error within the sentence, right, I'm going to rewrite it. Then we say it is, please feed. We remove the comma, please feed the cat, comma, the dog, comma, and the rabbit. And then we put our period or our endpoint, right? But we basically remove the comma because we don't have to say please feed and then comma the cat, right? Because now we are listing basically series of items, and the cat, the dog, and the rabbit, that is the three items that needs to be fed, right? So we say please feed the cat, comma, the dog, comma, and now we're coming to an end, the rabbit, because that is the last one that needs to be fed. All right, let's go to the next one. Wilson will plant, comma, flowers, comma, bushes, comma, and trees in his garden. So if this sentence is correct, then it is correct, and we will tick it off as correct. But if it is incorrect and there's an error, and then we're going to have to fix the error within that sentence. It says Wilson will plant, comma, flowers, comma, bushes, comma, and trees in his garden. All right. So if we were to fix, let's say the sentence, right? Then we will say Wilson will plant flowers, bushes, and trees in his garden, which means that we are removing that comma next to plant. And if we were to correct that sentence, we will say Wilson will plant flowers, because what is he planting? Flowers, comma. He's planting bushes, comma. And the last one that he's planting is trees in his garden. Which means that the items or the list that was the items that was listed is flowers, bushes, and trees, because those are the three things that Wilson will be planting. So we will then say Wilson will plant flowers, comma, bushes, comma, and trees in his garden. All right. So which means that the three items that were selected, or let's say separated within this one sentence, it is the flowers that Wilson grew or planted, the bushes, as well as the trees. All right, so we see that we use commas to separate three or more items within a series. And we put a comma after each item within a list. But we do not put a comma after the last word. After the last word. Once we say and we select the last word, or we list the last word, then it means that this is now the last word. And shows that our items are coming to an end. Let me put the last one down. So that is what it means when we say that we do not put a comma after the last word or after the last item, right? Then also we put commas in dates, right? So we use commas between the day as well as the year. All right. And if we look at an example, right? If we look at an example of how we use dates to, or let's say we use commas between the days as well as in the year, when it comes to date, then an example is we first put the month, then we put the day, comma as well, and then the year, right? So we use a comma between the day, which is number 1, that's January 1, comma, as well as the year, which is year 2000. And if, let's say, for example, we need to put today's date. What is today's date? Today's date is February 20, 2024, right? Which means that we are first going to put down the month, which is February. Now we put on the day, which is 20, comma, and we put the year, which is 2024. If you were to write your birthday, right? If you were to write your birthday, that is a date. Yes, it's February 20th, but then put your comma afterwards and then the year. That is basically how we use a comma between the days and the year. Currently in my country, it is the next day. So it is now currently February 2020. It's February 21 or the 21st of February because it is past 1 in the morning. All right, so if we were to put our birthdays, let's say if I were to put my birthday, right? Then it is my birthday is January 18, comma. Let's say this year was 2024. All right, yes. And like for example, Jan 15, don't forget to put the comma. So put the comma between 15 and 2024. So because if you're putting the date, then it means that you need to put Jan or January 15, comma, and then 2024. That is how we basically write dates. We put the month, we put the day, comma, and we put the year. Yes, well done. So January 15, comma, 2024. So that is basically how we write dates, right? Because in dates, we use a comma between the day, let's say, for example, 15, and the year, which is 2024. So both of our birthdays is January and is close to each other. All right. If we look at a few examples, right, we are going to say if these are correct and if it is not correct, and then we are going to fix whatever the mistake is or the error is within that sentence, right? Remember, we said with dates, we need to first put the month, then we put the day, followed by the comma, and then the year, right? So now, if we look at these three example sentences, it says, Mandy finished high school on June, comma, 14, comma, 2012. Is that sentence correct, especially with the date? Is that date correct? If the date is correct, then by all means, we're going to leave the sentence as is. But if the date is incorrect, then we need to fix the mistake, or we must fix the error. All right, so if we look at that one sentence, right, the first sentence is Mandy finished high school on June, comma, 14, comma, 2012. So now my question is that sentence correct? Or do we need to fix an error within that sentence? All right. And if we were to rewrite and fix that sentence, we're going to rewrite it. We will say it is Mandy finished high school on June, no comma, June 14. Now we add the comma as well as the year and our endpoint, right? Which means that we had to then remove the comma over there because we first just put the month, then we put the day, followed by a comma, and then the year. So that is how we write a date. In dates, we use a comma between the day as well as the year. All right, if we look at this next sentence, right, it says Colin was born on December 23, 1999. So Colin was born on December 23, 1999. If we look at that date, is this date correct or is an error that we need to fix? All right. And if we were to say if the sentence is correct or not, then if we look at the date, then this date is correct, right? This date is correct because we say that we in dates we use the comma between the day and the year only, which means that we put on the month, which is December, the day, which is 23, followed by the comma, and then the year. Because we only put the comma in between the day as well as the year, which means that that sentence is correct. Or let's say that date within that sentence is correct, right? And then we also use commas between cities as well as a state, or the city as well as the country. All right, and we are doing our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca. So we're going to our first lesson, which is commas with series. Your grandma's birthday is on New Year's Day, so well done to her. 1st of Jan. Okay, so we're using commas to separate 3 or more items within a series. And we need to put the comma after each item within the list, except for the last one. The last one, we do not put the comma afterwards, right? And we made an example of the American flag is red, comma, white, comma, and blue, right? So after our last word, this is our last word, we either put the endpoint, right? But we do not add another comma after our last word or our last word of that list. All right. We are going to now solve and correct the sentence by adding either the missing commas, or if there's already too much commas, we're going to remove a few commas, or we're just going to correct whatever error that is within that sentence. Right? And here it says, I wash the pots, comma, pans, comma, and dishes, comma, after dinner. If we look at that whole sentence, is that sentence correct? Or is there an error within that sentence? Because once again, we use commas to separate three or more items within a series. We put the commas after each item in the list, but we do not put the comma after the last item within that list. And if we were to once again look at the sentence, it says, I wash the pots, comma, pans, comma, and dishes, comma, after dinner. And if we were to correct the sentence, right, then we remove the and after the last item, which is dishes. So if we were to rewrite that sentence correctly, then we would say, I wash the pots, comma, pans, comma, and now we're putting our last word, and dishes after dinner. And we put our period or end point, right? Once again, we do not put a comma after the last item. We do not put a comma after a word that comes after the word and, right? Because we put our word and to show that we are now adding the last item on our list, finish, right? We need to correct the bold parts of the sentence by adding any missing commas. All right. If we look at the sentence, it says the pond, comma, the lake, comma, and, comma, the river are full of fish. We need to say if this whole sentence is correct. And if not, then we need to put the error, or we need to fix that sentence by fixing the error within that sentence. So what is the error that you can pick up on that sentence? Right, which means that we can say the pond, the lake, and. So the and, the comma after the and is incorrect. And if we were to rewrite that sentence, we would say the pond, comma, the lake, comma, right, and the river are full of fish. So we don't put and after the word and, right? All right, now let's go to our test. So we're going to write down, we are going to do commas or write down commas with series, right? We need to correct the bold part of the sentence by adding any missing commas. If the sentence is already correct, then don't add any commas. So our cat chases chipmunks, squirrels, and birds in our yard. Or do we say our cat chases, comma, chipmunks, comma, squirrels, commas, and birds in our yard? We need to choose the correct sentence within. We need to choose the correct sentence within this test. Between the two, is it option one or option two that is the correct one? So our cat chases chipmunks, squirrels, and birds in our yard. Or do we say our cat chases, comma, chipmunks, comma, squirrels, comma, and birds in our yard? So we need to choose the correct sentence. All right. So if we were to choose the correct sentence, right, or answer, we will choose option one. Because remember, we only put the commas, right, after the correct item, before the word and then we put our last, or we add our last item, right? And the first one is correct. So well done. We need to correct the bold part of the sentence by adding any missing commas. And if the sentence is already correct, then don't add any commas or any changes. All right. So if we look at these two sentences, right, we need to choose the correct one. It says, the pond, comma, the lake, comma, and the river are full of fish. Or do we say the pond, comma, the lake, comma, and comma, the river are full of fish? Which one is the correct answer? Remember, we don't put the comma after the word and. We only put a comma before the word and. And if we were to write the correct answer, right, then we will choose the first one. And the reason why we're choosing the first one is because the pond, the lake, and the river are full of fish, right? Which means that we are now listing the pond, comma, we're listing the lake, comma, and lastly, we're listing the river, right? And remember, we said that we only put the comma before the word and then we add our last item after the word and, but we do not put a comma after the word and, right? So we will go with the first one, right? Remember, we do not put a comma after the word and. The word and is there to show like we are going to just add the last item. So number one is correct. So well done. Right? And we said that with commas with dates, we said that in dates we use a comma between the day and we use a we use a comma between the day as well as the year, right? And we made an example of today's date, and we said it is February 20, comma 2024. So that is how we write the date. We put the month, we write the day, comma, and the year, right? And here we have an example. We write January 1, comma 2000. Once again, if we write today's date, we write February 20, comma 2024. So remember, we only add the comma after our day, or let's say in between the day as well as the year. All right. All right, so now if we look at our test, right, we need to correct the sentence by adding any missing commas. And if the sentence is already correct, then do not add any commas. It says, on January 25, comma, 1997, golfer Tiger Woods got a hole in one. Or do we say on January 25, 1997, no commas, golfer Tiger Woods got a hole in one? All right. And if we were to choose the correct answer, right, then it means that we will choose the first one. Because remember, we said we put the month, then we put the day, comma, and then we put the year. The second one has no comma to separate the day as well as the year. And the first one is correct. So yeah, well done. The first one is correct. The workers finished painting the bridge on May 27, comma 2009. All right. And if we were to choose the correct answer, yes, we will choose the first one. Because remember, we said first the month, then the day, comma, and then the year. Miss Gilmore bought her first computer on May 4, comma, 1998. Or do we say Miss Gilmore bought the first computer on May, comma, 4, comma, 1998? Which one is the correct one? And if we choose the correct one, yes, the first one is correct because we first put the month, then we add the day, comma, and the year. So well done. All right, so that is now the end of our lesson on commas, right? We did not get to the last one, which means that in our next lesson, we are going over commas with names of places, and again, commas with dates, right? This is now the end of our lesson, grade twos, sorry, on commas. And we said that we have commas with series, and the commas with series is where we list um, our specific items, right? And when we list our items, we put commas after each one of the, let's say, the items that we are listing. The only time that we do not add a comma is we do not put a comma after the word and, right? Because we put the word and just to show that we are coming, it's almost like our list is coming to an end. So we write the last one. And we do not put the comma after the last item, right? All right, so thank you very much, grade twos, for joining the class, and I really hope that you're going to have a good day further. Goodbye.